Wednesday, October 27th, 1999. This was an unproductive day for the team. No one had any energy or desire to practice. The coaches noticed this and were very displeased with the effort. I don't really know how to explain this horrible practice. It just happened, and now we have to put it behind us and focus on putting in a good effort for the rest of the week to prepare mentally and physically for Kansas. Saturday, October 30th, 1999. Nebraska 24, Kansas 17. This was sort of a miracle win for us. We were down 9-0 at halftime, battled for the lead 3 separate times, and ended up winning. The most amazing thing about this win is that it was accomplished with our passing game, not the running game. The passing game has really been a key part of our offense, although it's not used to a great extent. Maybe this game will be a wake-up call, and we can finish the season stronger than most people expect. This was an away game, and I was unable to watch or even listen to much of it because of a choir concert. I joined a men's ensemble with my friend and roommate Aaron Patch. I listened to most of it for the first quarter before the concert, and I was pretty disheartened from what I heard. At the end of the concert, I heard from someone who snuck in a pocket radio that the score was 24-17 with 1 minute left. That really cheered me up. I stayed dressed in my tuxedo after the concert and went to some Halloween parties around town. Friday, November 5th, 1999. This week was probably one of the best weeks of the year for football practice. Monday we went in sweats when we usually just go half pads. Tuesday and Wednesday, which are usually full pads, we were in half pads, and then Thursday we were in sweats just as usual. The coaches wanted us to take it a little easier this week since there are a lot of people injured who need time to recover. Coach Solich really stressed the need to continue to progress through the end of the season. We needed to keep up the intensity this week even though we weren't in full pads. I hope this strategy will pay off. Saturday, November 6th, 1999. Nebraska 37, Texas A&M 0. I guess this strategy did pay off. We played some of the best football I have seen in recent times and seemed unstoppable in every aspect of the game. This game was one of the most exciting games, despite the score, that I've seen in the past 2 years. Everything seemed to come into place for us. After a slow first half, only 6 points off of 2 field goals, we got our act together and racked up the score almost rhythmically with Texas A&M having no way to stop it. The offense put up some impressive drives in the first half, but we still had problems with fumbles, and Josh Brown had a field goal attempt hit the goalpost. The final score should have been something around 50-0. The defense put on an impressive show that will be hard to beat. They recorded 8 sacks, 4 interceptions, and many tackles for losses. They also held the Texas A&M offense to just 2 yards of rushing. I feel sorry for whoever has to pick a defensive player of this game because it would be nearly impossible since so many players were exceptional. If we can play like that after having no full pad practices, I say we never have another full pad practice again. Monday, November 8th, 1999. I did it. Finally, I was voted Offensive Scout Team Player of the Week for last week's practices preparing for Texas A&M. This really made my year. Actually, it makes my whole 2 years that I've been here. I now know that my effort is not in vain, and the coaches think I'm doing a good enough job to be picked above all the other scout team guys. Actually, I'm just going to ignore the fact that I'm sharing this award with another offensive scout team player. But the award still says Offensive Player of the Week, not co-player, so I'm taking that. It's hard for linemen to get this award since we don't stand out as much as the backs and receivers, and it's really hard to gauge our effectiveness against such a good defensive line. This lifted my spirits enough to make me try harder to get this 2 weeks in a row. Friday, November 12th, 1999. This whole week was in sweats and half pads again. I don't miss full pads too much, considering those practices are the ones where everyone gets banged up and ends up crawling back to the locker room drained of energy. I think these practices really are beneficial. We're not supposed to take people down by tackling them or knocking them down with our blocks. This focuses us to work harder, to stay up, and also to use our heads to get in proper technique and pay more attention to what's happening all around. After a week of these type of practices, we have so much more energy stored up that we're craving a chance to hit someone. By game day, we're all ready to go like never before. K-State should be a good game. Everyone has been talking about it, and it's all over the papers. They're 9-0 right now, and we are 8-1. If we beat them, we should get a better place in the BCS and have a better chance of getting back into the running for the Sugar Bowl bid. Saturday, November 13th, 1999. Nebraska 41, Kansas State 15. This was the best game I've seen in many, many years. I know I keep saying that, but each week it's true. This crowd was utterly amazing, and the energy was flowing from the stands. We even got a roar out of the crowd when the specialists went out for the kicking practice before the rest of the team came out. Every time the defense was on the field, the crowd cheered them on like wild animals and made so much noise it seemed like it was impossible for K-State to make an audible. The offense was dominant, even though we fumbled the ball 10 times, losing 3. Eric Crouch lit up the scoreboard with 2 rushing touchdowns, and Mike Brown had an excellent game at defensive back, seeming to be in on almost every play. Today was also Senior Day, making this a very nice way to leave Memorial Stadium for the seniors. I picked up another $17 today, just like after every home game. Thursday, November 18th, 1999. Today was the first day in full pads in a long time. It's been about 2 weeks, and it actually feels good to get back into a full pads practice. I could tell the guys on the team needed this because all of them were hungry to go out and hit someone. The practice went fairly well with no major problems. Defensive tackle Jeremy Schlechter is out for the rest of the season with a knee injury. This hurts the fragile depth of the defensive line, but it shouldn't cause too much damage. We were given another t-shirt today, only this is the exact same shirt we got earlier in the year. I'm just going to give this one to my dad. We had a Thanksgiving feast tonight at the Hewitt Center. They had everything: salads, pastas, fruits and vegetables, turkey, duck, chicken cordon bleu, and all the fixins'. It was about as good as the food that they served during the recruiting visits. Not that the regular food is worse, but you could tell they put in a lot more time and preparation into this. Friday, November 19th, 1999. I was able to make it to practice today because my chemistry lab was shorter than expected. This was a good thing and a bad thing. It was good because I practiced and was able to help the team out more than if someone else was playing center on the scout team. It was bad because I wasn't able to eat lunch today and was very low on energy, and it really hurt when we had to run gassers at the end. Saturday, November 20th, 1999. Florida State remains undefeated after beating Florida today, which will help us in the end. We're ranked 3rd in the BCS, with Virginia Tech and Florida State ahead of us. This is undoubtedly higher than many people thought we would be at the end of the season. We still have a chance to end up 2nd and go to the Sugar Bowl. According to rumors and predictions, if we beat Colorado and then Texas in the Big 12 championship, it would be almost impossible for Virginia Tech to remain 2nd. Let's hope they're right. I would like to finish this season with a national championship ring on my finger. Friday, November 26, 1999. Nebraska 33, Colorado 30. This was the great escape. We began the game with a bang, scoring twice in 5 offensive plays. The game seemed as if it was in the bag right up until the 4th quarter with the score 27-3. With that kind of lead, the other team usually just rolls over. Colorado, on the other hand, put together an amazing offensive push with the help of a couple fumbles on our part and recovered an onside kick. It was tied 27-27 with 1 second left, and Colorado missed the perfect opportunity to beat us by kicking a short field goal wide right. In overtime, Colorado kicked a field goal, and we got a touchdown to seal the victory and our appearance in the Big 12 championship game. Thursday, December 2nd, 1999. This week of practice was similar to the weeks before, with no full pads. I was just getting over the stomach flu on Monday and Tuesday, so I didn't practice too well. The team seems very well prepared to face Texas again, and this time we won't give up without a fight. The team has a score to settle, and the determination and concentration they have shown this week has really proven their desire. Saturday, December 4th, 1999. Nebraska 22, Texas 6. We are now the 1999 Big 12 champions, just like we should be. We finally got rid of that shadow that Texas had over our heads. The whole week was preparation for domination, and we showed it. The defense threw another shutout. The only Texas points were from a defensive fumble recovery. The statistics for the game show a great defensive battle, with less than 300 total yards for us and less than 200 for Texas. They only had 9 yards rushing, thanks mostly to our defense, which sacked a flustered Major Applewhite. They only had 9 yards rushing, thanks mostly to our defense, which sacked a flustered Major Applewhite 7 times. Applewhite also threw 3 interceptions, which turned out to be the huge turning points in the game. It was a very emotional win for our guys, and now the seniors can leave saying that they finally have beaten Texas. Now I just have to sit and wait for that big shiny ring. We found out that we're going to play Tennessee in the Fiesta Bowl on January 2nd, 2000. Under the current BCS structure, our narrow win over Colorado late in the season and our loss to Texas earlier in the season really hurt our chances of making it to the national championship. Even though we avenged our loss to Texas in the Big 12 championship game, it wasn't enough to bump us into second place in the BCS. Florida State and Virginia Tech are still undefeated, and that's all it takes to look better than us. Nevertheless, we're very happy to go to the Fiesta Bowl. It's one of the biggest bowls in the nation, so we should get very good treatment, and should get a lot of good stuff for our bowl gifts. If last year was any indication, and if this year is supposed to be any better, I can't wait to see what we get. Tuesday, December 7th, 1999. Practice today was one of the easiest all year, even if you include Friday walkthroughs. We practiced for about 70 minutes, and half of that time was just spent standing around and listening to Coach Tenneper. We only had 3 coaches here today, Solich, Tenneper, and McBride, so there was even less to do in practice. The rest of the coaches were out on recruiting trips. But instead of the team just wasting the practice, everyone knew what needed to get done, and the leadership on the team really shone through to make sure we got it done. Because the Fiesta Bowl is a major BCS bowl, we all get 6 free tickets for family and friends instead of the regular 4. It's a $12.5 million bowl for the university and the Big 12 Conference. This also means that we will get some pretty nice gifts from the Fiesta Bowl and Adidas. The guys in the travel squad received their Big 12 watches today. I haven't seen one yet, but I hear they're really big and really nice. Friday, December 10th, 1999. At meetings today, we got sized for our Big 12 rings. We also saw one of the Fiesta Bowl gifts, a brown and black Fiesta Bowl letter jacket. It looks very nice, and I can't wait to see what else we get. Practice was very similar to Tuesday's, going a little over an hour with not much work. We were in sweats today, but tomorrow we'll be in half pads. There are some recruits in this weekend getting the whole tour, and all of them are watching practice. A while back, I joked with Brian Nelson that everyone gets a red belly on their birthday. This isn't really true, but I guess he believed me, and then he asked me yesterday, on his birthday, if he would get a red belly. I said yes. He then went to senior tackle Adam Jolch and asked him. Adam said that he wouldn't, and that I would get one for saying that, but in the end, I guess he thought the whole idea of a birthday red belly was a good one. As we were all walking over to the Cook Pavilion, most of the O-line sang a very sarcastic happy birthday to Brian. Then, after practice, concealed from the view of the recruits, he received his red belly. Sorry, Nellie. We had a new Husker baseball hat waiting for us in our locker room. They're black with the Husker logo on the front. They're nice, but I really don't wear hats too often, and I don't know who to give it to. At dinner tonight, we got $27 for food for the weekend. That won't last too long. Monday, December 13th, 1999. I really didn't want to practice today. I need to do so much work for my finals, and I'm fairly confident that I won't get it all done. I really procrastinated way too much. I have to find some way to fix that now. Practice won't be too bad this week. And not to mention the fact that all of us are going to be taking finals soon, we're only going to practice Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and then we'll practice the whole weekend straight up through next Tuesday. I wasn't too pleased to hear about the weekend schedule. We should get money for the weekend and the other days where there are no classes. After Tuesday's practice, everyone who lives close enough away can go home for a little while before Christmas. I feel fortunate that my parents only live an hour away. It must be very tough for the out-of-state guys who are so far away from their families during the holidays. We have to be back here Friday, Christmas Eve day, and leave for Tempe at 7 in the morning. Then the fun begins. Our practices for the past week have been very short, only about 80 minutes. So it'll be a real shock when we finally get down there and have a regular 2-hour practice, especially in that Arizona heat. I just hope we won't have any of those practices that almost go 3 hours, but we should count on them. Wednesday, December 15th, 1999. Again, I really didn't want to practice today. I had finals at 7:30 and 10 this morning, and stayed up past 3 o'clock in the morning last night studying for them. I took 2 naps during the day, but I was still pretty tired for practice. We went half pads again, and I was happy when it was all over. I have one more final tomorrow, and then I'll be done with the semester. I think I will have a pretty good GPA for the semester. I found out that I got an A in Coach Osborne's coaching football class. This should have been expected since I'm a Husker football player, but only 40% of the people who take that class actually pass it. Friday, December 17th, 1999. Another fun practice day, and by fun, I mean grueling. I think the only reason we're going so hard right now is to show off for all the recruits who are here on their official visits. The game itself is 2 weeks away, and we'll have plenty of time to prepare once we're in Tempe. Right now, we should be taking it easy in practice and lifting harder. Oh well, I guess that's what the coaches think is best. Coach Solich was named the Big 12 Coach of the Year. He has really been doing a great job this year. He seems very comfortable in his role as head coach now, and also seems very comfortable in front of the team. I finally started my Christmas shopping yesterday, and today I finished it by getting 2 footballs to be signed by the team. These footballs make great gifts for only $35 plus the effort it takes to get them signed. I hope to get a ball for my family every year that I'm on the team. I also hope one of these years will be another national championship year. At the end of the practice, Coach Staniffer pulled the scout team offensive line to the side and walked through some of our plays. He has done this for the past 3 practices. I think there actually may be a chance of me getting in the game, but that will take nothing short of a miracle, accompanied by a total blowout. I'm doing well remembering all the plays, so I think I have a pretty good chance to get at least one play. We got $69 for the weekend. This is just the start of all the money and the gifts that we'll get for the entire trip. Saturday, December 18th, 1999. Today was the first full pads 2-hour practice we've had in a very long time. After practice, I finished getting my footballs signed by the coaches and finished up my lifting. After that, I picked up my big bag of goodies from Adidas. Along with the duffel bag itself, we received 2 hats, 3 t-shirts, and matching colored mesh shorts, 2 golf shirts, a black windsuit, a nice black coat, and 2 sweatshirts. Separate from the bag, we also got a new pair of shoes. They're a really nice pair of running shoes, and I actually got the kind I would go out and buy myself. I probably should have traded them in for a size 12 and given them to my brother, since I really don't need any more shoes. They're all very nice things, and I estimate the overall value to be about $550 in retail. This made for a very nice Christmas. These make nice Christmas gifts to pass on to friends and family as well, since my closet's probably going to be overflowing with all the clothes and merchandise after a while. Sunday, December 19th, 1999. It's never fun to practice 2 hours in full pads on a Sunday, but this one was pretty good for me. Instead of going out, partying too hard, and sleeping only 4 hours like a lot of guys did, I got plenty of rest and was ready to go 100% for the whole practice. I used this advantage to do better than most of the guys, and I know that it will look good to the coaches. Somehow, the sleeve of my practice jersey got torn yesterday. By the end of today, after all the banging around that comes with the full pad practice, the jersey was almost torn in half. We got $65 for food after practice. That's not a bad amount for a couple weekend meals. We learned today that not everyone will suit up for the bowl game. There are only a certain number of lockers, somewhere in the 80s, and I doubt that I'll be able to suit up because of this. It's rare to take any deeper than the 3rd string in the O-line if there's any restriction like this. Also, the 2nd and 3rd string centers are both seniors, so they're guaranteed to suit up and play. John Garrison is unofficially the 4th string center, but he also does the long snaps, so that will knock out any chance of me suiting up. Thursday, December 23rd, 1999. The weight room was open today from 5 to 7:30 this evening, and since they required everyone to be there, we were able to get paid for the day. We got $84, and all we really had to do for the workout was just a set of curls or 5 minutes on the exercise bike. It's almost outrageous how much they can give us on a day like today. Really, how is anyone supposed to spend $84 on food in one day? There are certain times that different guys get different amounts of money. Most often, guys who are on scholarship get less money for these types of days because most of that money is already figured in to some degree in their housing allowance. Friday, December 24th, 1999. We all met at the airport at 7 this morning. I took a taxi so I could leave my car in my garage. They had juice and muffins in the terminal for us, and we also picked up $276 to start the trip. We were really spread out in the plane, and I was able to have 2 seats all to myself all the way to Phoenix. After the 2.5-hour flight, we were greeted in Phoenix by a welcoming party who were semi-enthusiastically clapping and slapped Fiesta Bowl sun stickers on us as we walked by. We then had a police escort from the airport to the hotel. The ride to the hotel told me a lot about the city and this region of the country. A lot of Native American designs decorate the highways and the sides of the road. Most of the overpasses and cement pillars are painted red or orange to blend in with the surrounding desert. It's a lot different from the stale but efficient way our state looks. When we got to the hotel, the Scottsdale Plaza Resort, we found our room. Brian Nelson's my roommate, and we had more than 2 free hours before we had to leave for practice. I spent the majority of this time in the game room, which has 2 pool tables, 2 PlayStations, 2 Nintendos, 2 basketball games, a dartboard, 4 arcade games, and 2 TVs. There were also 4 coolers full of drinks and all kinds of snack food like cereal bars, peanuts, raisins, applesauce, Jell-O, etc. The practice was really rough, but it didn't seem very long. We're practicing at the Scottsdale Community College, which actually is a pretty nice site. We had meetings at the hotel after practice. Coach Solich went over his expectations for the trip, and a police officer later explained some of the demographics of the city, such as places to stay away from and which places are good to hang out at. We have shuttle vans again this year to take us anywhere we want to go for free, operating from 5:30 to midnight. I stayed in the hotel tonight and relaxed in the game room and got plenty of rest. My back is pretty sore, and everyone on the trip shares my feeling of tiredness. Saturday, December 25th, 1999. Again, a Christmas day without presents. Instead, we go to practice. Our morning meeting was at 8 o'clock, but I don't have to stay for the offensive line meeting, so I can go back to my room and rest before practice. The practice was at 11:15, and it wasn't as bad as I expected. I knew it was going to be a scrimmage, and I thought it would be like last year's bowl practice scrimmage that lasted 3 hours. Instead, it was like a regular practice for the scout team, and it was actually a little easier since the top squads spent a lot of their energy scrimmaging against each other. We had lunch and dinner at the hotel. The Fiesta Bowl sponsored the dinner, and we received our watches. They're Swiss Army watches, and they also came along with a little knife. At dinner, starting defensive lineman Steve Warren sang Grace and also led us in the song The 12 Days of Christmas, where all the positions had different days to sing. It was pretty amusing. Then, starting offensive tackle Adam Jolch came out in a Santa Claus outfit and made all the little kids happy. The children in the audience were those of our coaches and our staff, who came along with them. I stayed in the lounge again tonight and played games until it closed at 1 a.m. Sunday, December 26th, 1999. The only thing that was required of us today was a 10 o'clock meeting. I napped and relaxed most of the day, and then later went to a mall and some clubs with some of the guys. Why we couldn't have made Christmas Day the off day, I'll never know. Monday, December 27th, 1999. At the 8 o'clock meeting this morning, Coach Solich informed us that there had been an incident. He wouldn't say who did what, but he made sure to point out that there are cameras all over the hotel property. Later on, I heard that a couple of guys were caught on tape sneaking around the hotel grounds. I'm not sure what they did, or if they were just busted for being out too late, but the warning is out now. The buses left at 9:30 for practice. Not much time for extra rest today. The practice was in full pads and very rough. My back and legs are very sore, and actually hurt bad enough to get me out of doing gassers. I iced my back after practice, and then later spent some time in the hot tub. 3 buses full of guys later went to the Arizona State University's campus golf course, the Karsten Golf Course, this afternoon. It's a very beautiful and challenging course. We paired up in carts and played as foursomes. I shared the cart with guard Andy Gwinnett. Tackle Dan Waldrop and guard Brian Hale rounded out our foursome. We played a best ball game, and it was a very sloppy round. By the end of the 9 holes, we weren't even playing. We were just off-roading on our golf cart all over the course, nearly tipping it over many times. We got so caught up in goofing off that we lost track of time, and we were the last people to get on the bus. Quite a few of the guys were pissed at us for making them wait, but we had fun. We had a steak fry tonight for dinner. I can't eat very much because every time I pass through the players' lounge, I grab a little something, and that means I'm not hungry at mealtime. I'm going to gain a lot of weight if I continue to eat like this for the rest of the trip. Tuesday, December 28th, 1999. Very early wake-up today. We all had to leave for our Fellowship of Christian Athletes breakfast at 6:45. It was a nice breakfast, but the presentation was too long and boring. The Tennessee team was there as well, and the presentation included players from both sides. We went back to the hotel and had meetings and lunch, and then finally left for practice at 1 o'clock. The practice was another long one in full pads. My back felt a lot better today after getting treatment on it. Everyone I've talked to thinks that we're going too hard in practice. It's understandable why we're going so hard now, because the past couple weeks of the season and the last week of school were a lot lighter than usual. Everyone also thinks this trip is way too long. We could have come down later and still had plenty of time to prepare. We should have at least been able to spend Christmas with our families. Coach Solich seems very confident now in his role as head coach. The strength and confidence he is showing is, in my opinion, helping keep the team together in this stressful and conflicting time. Tonight we went to a hockey game between the Phoenix Coyotes and the New York Rangers. This was my first NHL game, and it was a lot of fun. We had box seats with a great view, all for free. There were no fights, and it ended in a 2-2 tie, but it was still a fun time. We got back to the hotel at 11:30 and made it just in time for the hot snack, which was fajitas. Wednesday, December 29th, 1999. We had another obligation today with a kickoff luncheon. It was very long and drawn out. I sat with a local news team, most of whom were Husker fans. One couple, however, was dressed in volunteer colors, and they weren't very pleased to have to sit with the Nebraska player. We went straight to practice after the luncheon. Today is the last day in any kind of pads. The practice wasn't too bad, but I was still very happy to see it end. We have police escorts to practice, which I don't think are really necessary. We're fairly close to the practice site, so even if we were to hit all the red lights, we would only be about 5 minutes later than if we didn't have the escorts. Also, while the police block off an intersection for us, we disrupt the flow of traffic in a big, fast-paced city. I see this as a huge inconvenience to all the people of Phoenix, and I would like to apologize for that, even though I really have no say in the whole deal. Tonight is the first night with the bed check. It's at 11:30. Thursday, December 30th, 1999. We practiced at 10:15 today in sweats. It was a good practice overall, but my back problems have created another problem. The tightness has thrown off my long snaps. Because of this, Coach Bowl no longer trusts me to do the snaps, and is now having me snap to a dummy punter while the real punter already has a ball. We had the whole afternoon to just relax and enjoy. We then picked up another $125 at dinner. Later on, we had a small after-bed check party in our room. I finally passed out around 3 o'clock in the morning. Friday, December 31st, 1999. We had an early wake-up and 9:30 practice. I did not feel 100% due to the night before, but it didn't matter. I hardly broke a sweat. I spent the majority of the day in the pool, relaxing and playing with some of the other guys. My parents finally got here, along with other friends and family. This cured some of my homesickness, but not all of it. A sizable group of players met in the Players' Lounge for a Millennium Party tonight. We counted down, shouted Happy New Year, and threw confetti. 5 minutes later, Coach Solich did a countdown of his own and said, 3, 2, 1, bedtime! Well, at least he has a sense of humor. This night really got to me. I made it through Christmas all right because I was able to go home before I left and celebrated an early Christmas with my parents. New Year's is always a fun time for me because I'm with a lot of my friends and there are always good parties. I miss my friends and the parties. Overall, this night was very depressing. Saturday, January 1st, 2000. Well, there were no Y2K disasters. All is well, and the world continues to spin. We had 9:30 meetings, and then I went back to my bed until 1. I spent the afternoon with my family. The players who were going to dress for the game went to the stadium to have a walk-through practice. Just today, a day before the game, I officially discovered that I will not suit up due to the lack of locker space. Sunday, January 2nd, 2000. Nebraska 31, Tennessee 21. I slept late again. We had 11:30 meetings, and then we were free for the rest of the day. We got $75 at lunch. I ended up going to the game with my family. They were supposed to go to a pregame party, but it was a flop, so I went and got my ticket. I ended up sitting with the other players who didn't suit up. The game was very long, with a lot of interruptions, such as TV timeouts. Our offense got a quick start, and Bobby Newcomb's punt return for a touchdown really set the tone for the game. It was a great game overall for us, and it ended the season nicely with a 32-21 win. Coach Solich finishes his second year with a 21-5 record. One interesting fact about this game is that it was our coldest game of the year. Even after playing in Nebraska in the late fall, our coldest game was in the Arizona desert. I finally get to go home tomorrow. Monday, January 3rd, 2000. Charlie McBride, the defensive coordinator and defensive line coach for many years, announced that he is retiring, effective immediately. I guess this had been in the works for a while, and a few of his close players knew about it, but it was a shock for the rest of the team and the media. With such an aged coaching staff, it seems only natural they're going to have a couple more retirees in the next couple years. I never thought I would look forward to being in Nebraska during the winter, but I'm glad to be home. I hitched a ride from Russ Hochstein back to my place from the airport, and finally made it back to Omaha. All in all, it was a long but pleasant trip that ended very well. End of the year summary for 1999. Looking back after all the 5 years, this was our best year at 12-1, and this was the best team that I was a part of. In the end, we beat every team we played after avenging our loss to Texas. I have no doubt at all that had we been in the national championship game this year, I would be the proud owner of another very nice ring. But as it is, the Big 12 championship ring is the only ring that I ever earned while on the team. I had hopes for so much more, but I think, like many of my teammates, our hopes were placed on the shoulders of our better athletes, and we wanted them to pull us through. I knew I wasn't going to play much, but I knew I wanted a ring. So I did everything I could in practice to get them ready. But in the end, they were the ones that had to do it in the game, not me. The benefit of this situation was that I could take pride in their success because I helped get them there. Conversely, when they failed, I could either choose to feel responsible for their lack of preparation, or I could wash my hands entirely clean of their actions and place it all on them. Because of these twisted, mixed emotions, you won't see me wearing that ring too often. Alright, we're about 2/5 away through my time with the team, and I just wanted to take a moment here and talk about a couple of things that I think are kind of interesting to lay some groundwork for what's coming up later. If you look back, you'll notice that I constantly use terminology like the players had a meeting and the Huskers are doing well, and I don't really characterize myself with them as being a member of the team yet and being a Husker myself. And I think that's important because at this point in time, I didn't really feel like I had really earned my spot on the team yet. I was still struggling to really show the coaches what I could do. I was struggling to produce a good strength and good speed and just basically good playing ability so I could actually do something on game days. And at this point in time, it just hadn't done anything yet. You're going to see later on that I eventually do become a lot more comfortable with my status on the team, and I feel a little bit of ownership of the team. I take more of a leadership role, being on the Unity Council, and when I'm working with the younger players, I develop a good leadership role with that. And so I do eventually work myself into the role of really being a Husker and being on the team. And because these first couple of years, you're really just looking for acceptance. You're looking to make sure that what you're doing and what you chose to do in your post-high school career is going to really make a difference and is really going to be what you want it to be. And to this point, after the second year with the Huskers, I was still struggling for that. And I still didn't really see that I had made the best choice. I knew I was going to face a lot of hard work, and I knew this was not going to be easy. And I also knew that it would pay off greatly if I could just succeed in doing all this. These first couple of years, I spent the majority of the time trying to give the reader the sense of just the fundamentals of the program, the structure of the days, the structure of the practices, just kind of the how things work from the inside. And this is mainly because as a freshman offensive lineman, especially being a walk-on, you're really not in the loop with all the information and all that's going on with the main guys on the team. I had to write what I experienced and what I knew about the most, and that was mostly what I could observe, just being there and doing what I was supposed to do. So I would talk about how practices were run, the structure of the days, how the bowl trips are organized, and just kind of the structure of the team itself, because I wanted to lay that groundwork. And I was hoping, which did turn out, I was able to get more behind the scenes with some of the players and the stories and the inner workings and kind of the politics of the program later on, which you will see as we keep going here. We're also going to see the nuts and bolts of the program, a little more of the stories and the sidelights and the people and the places. And so they're equally interesting to me. Also, in the first couple years here, I'm pretty short in my summaries of what happened in games and in practices and everything else. And that was mostly because some nights I would get home and I was too tired to write too much. So I would just kind of write a little side note here and there, and I thought I was going to come back and fill it in all later, but that never really happened. So a lot of the things are really summarized and don't really offer too much insight, honestly, but and also I just wanted to let the reader kind of imagine how they would have filled out the rest of that day themselves. You can walk in my shoes directly, but honestly, sometimes real life just isn't that entertaining, and even being a part of the Huskers and doing all the exciting stuff with them sometimes was pretty boring and mundane, and the details really don't matter too much in the grand scheme of things. Alright, so here we go back with the book, starting with the 2000 winter conditioning. This is a little afterthought that I put into the book. It was around this time that I started to become much more cynical and negative about my life as a Husker. The rest of the year would be a roller coaster of emotions. My body was aching, my strength reached its peak before quickly fading, and my weight was a constant struggle to keep up. I always joke that I didn't eat until I was full, I would eat until I was tired. To further compound it, it seemed as if the coaches still just saw me as a freshman and nowhere near being ready to contribute. I seemed stuck. I don't like being stuck. I began to feel like I either needed to move up or move on. Friday, January 14th, 2000. We had our first team meeting after having the rest of the winter break off and the first week of school with no obligations. Coach Solich said Coach Craig Bull will become the new defensive coordinator, taking over for Charlie McBride. Coach Solich will hire a new defensive line coach, but he said it will be someone everyone knows and respects, so it won't be a shock. I think it would be more shocking to get someone who wasn't a competent coach, but I guess familiarity must be the first thing they look for. The meeting broke up and the offensive line met in Coach Senaper's office to discuss how winter conditioning will happen. It will be exactly like last year, lifting at 7 in the morning with running in the afternoon. Wednesday, January 19th, 2000. We had our winter testing/tryouts today. I think I was a little worse on my vertical, but my 40-yard dash and my pro agility were really good. My 40 speed is now 5.67 seconds, a nice improvement from the last time, which I think was in the 5.8 range. My pro agility time was 4.69 seconds, which is not bad, but I don't know if it's much of an improvement. I've been teaching Brian Nelson how to play racquetball. He's picking it up quickly, but he still has a long way to go if he's ever going to beat me. Friday, January 21st, 2000. We had another team meeting today. Coach Solich made the first order of business the naming of the new defensive line coach. Jeff Jamrog, a former Nebraska player who recently coached at New Mexico State, will take over for Charlie McBride. I don't know much about the man, but he must be pretty good. After this, Boyd Epley went over the testing results from Wednesday. The most spectacular thing in the report was that Dan Alexander tied Amon Green's score for the 40-yard dash. This is even more amazing because the new field turf is supposed to be slightly slower than the old AstroTurf. My right shoulder has been giving me trouble for a while. I haven't had any pain, but it pops when I make certain arm movements. I've been receiving treatment on it for a while, and I haven't seen much improvement. The team doctor yesterday recommended that I get x-rays taken, so I went to the University Health Center. They x-rayed both shoulders to get a comparison. The team doctor will look at the x-rays Monday night when he returns, and we'll see what happens. Monday, January 24th, 2000. Today was the first day of winter conditioning. It started at 7 o'clock this morning and everyone was there on time. Unlike last year, we're not the only group that decided morning workouts were a good idea. The weight room was obnoxiously packed, and it took a long time just to get everyone going on their lifts. Because of this overcrowding, Archer decreed that from now on, Monday and Thursday lifting will start at 6:30. Oh well, I guess an extra half hour of sleep really doesn't matter. I later played Kyle Colmorgan in racquetball. This is the first round of the O-line tournament, and I thought it was kind of ironic that the two of us, two of the best players, would have to play in the first round. I was worried at first, because he is the returning champion from last year. He had a wicked serve that killed me last year, so I was kind of nervous. This year, however, he lost a lot of his mobility and flexibility, so he really wasn't as good. Or maybe I'm just a lot better than last year. Either way, I beat him 2 out of 3 games. I made a lot of great hits and really felt energized. Everyone was really surprised to find out that I beat Kyle. He even told me after the match that no one else will come close to me and that I have this tournament wrapped up. This is just another way that I'm earning respect. I saw the doctor today after dinner, and he said there isn't a bone chip in my shoulder, so it was probably just a stretched ligament or tendon that was a little inflamed. I was given a cortisone injection in my shoulder that is supposedly pretty successful with this kind of stuff, but it will leave me inactive for 2 or 3 days. Tuesday, January 25th, 2000. Today was another day of lifting at 7 o'clock, although I couldn't do much due to the injection. I was able to do all the lower body activities and abdominal work, but that was about it. My shoulder is kind of sore, but it isn't much different. I used the rest of the day to do a lot of homework. Thursday, January 27th, 2000. It didn't take long for someone to show up late for lifting. Phil Luking, a redshirt sophomore who threw for the track team his first year and took a redshirt football year this year, showed up at about 6:45. Shortly after 7, the entire O-line ran out into the cold, dark morning air and ran to the top of the South Stadium bleachers. Doing one of those isn't bad. At least it shouldn't be for any of us, and it really helps to get us warmed up in the mornings. However, doing 3 stadiums, like Phil has to do, would be a little harder to say the least. He barely made them, but he finished with pride. I think I can guarantee he won't be late again this winter. Monday, January 31st, 2000. After a flawless season with no one on the offensive line quitting or getting injured badly enough to stop playing, we just lost 2 freshmen. Matt Witolski and John Mengelsdorf both decided to quit very recently. Matt was injured for the entire season and never did anything with the team. John, on the other hand, was a good player with an enormous frame who was still learning a lot of the fundamentals and making good progress. They're roommates in the dorm, and I can only make guesses as to why they quit. I did about half of my workout this morning. I have an 8:30 class, and since I had to come back later to play racquetball, I finished early, relaxed, and enjoyed a big breakfast. My weight is really a concern for me right now. I've almost dropped 10 pounds from what I was last year. I weighed 273 pounds this morning, but I lied to Archer and told him 275. I need to put on about 3 pounds a week during this winter conditioning period. I played Russ Hochstein this afternoon in racquetball and beat him 2 games in a row to advance to the next round. I then finished my workout, and when I was completely exhausted, John Rutherford asked me to play for fun. It wasn't very fun, though, because he beat me 2 games in a row. I'm sure John and I will meet sometime during the playoffs. Thursday, February 3rd, 2000. Lifting this morning started off with a little meeting about the need to get injuries examined by the trainers, no matter how minor they may appear to us. I thought this might be a good time to tell someone about my back. It's still sore from the bull trip and flares up every now and then. Just when I think it's getting better, I move a certain way and hurt it so I can hardly move without pain. I'm afraid of being seen as a big hypochondriac or someone who's just trying to get out of doing work, so I have a hard time telling people about my problems. But I know I have to if I want to get them better. I started a class today where I go to an area high school to observe and sometimes even teach. The principal is Jerry Wilkes, an old offensive lineman for the Huskers, and he's also an old friend of my dad, and his son Joel was an offensive lineman during the mid-90s with Coach Osborne as the part of the legendary Pipeline, one of the most highly respected offensive lines ever. I talked to him about where his son was in his first couple of years and the struggles he went through. Joel and I have a lot of similarities. He struggled to gain and maintain his weight, he didn't play much his first years, and it took him a while to make a name for himself. I think he could be an inspiration to me, and that I could learn a lot from his experiences. Monday, February 7th, 2000. My hang clean is finally returning to what it used to be. I did 286 pounds in the rack clean today, which is near the top of what anybody else is doing. Today was also our first day of running. We met in the Cook at 3:30 and did our usual jump rope, low ropes, bags, and cones workout. It didn't take too long, but in the end I was feeling pretty tired. I had some unusual trouble with the jump rope, and my foot speed is not what it used to be on the low ropes. Other guys had the same difficulty as well, and it really wasn't that hard of a workout compared to some of the past. Then, just to add insult to injury, we had to run a stadium because John Garrison was late to lifting last Friday, and we didn't run a run after a heavy squat. I should fall asleep pretty easily tonight. Friday, February 11th, 2000. This morning, I did the most on squat I've ever done. I did 350 pounds 10 times for my last set, and got all of them cleanly. I really impressed myself, and I could tell that Archer and Coach Tenneper were also impressed. I was thoroughly wiped out after that, but it felt good. I hope I can do more next week. Monday, February 14th, 2000. My freshman year roommate, Leif Sidwell, has been forced into retirement because of his shoulder. Even after 2 surgeries, the problems were still severe enough that he had to quit. I don't know exactly what he must be going through with all this, but I bet it isn't easy. He was a hard worker and a good guy. For a brief period while he was healthy, he was playing like the best lineman in our class. So it goes. Friday, February 18th, 2000. It finally snowed today. After months of waiting and days of unanswered forecasts, we finally get some snow. The streets were still full of the 5-inch snowfall at 6:30 this morning, but everyone got to the workout regardless. That just shows how much character and determination we have as a group. I'm not sure if it was related, but the seniors talked it over and called off the afternoon passing league work. I went in and finished my lifting in the afternoon, and even did extra work on my form on certain lifts. Then I went to the pit and worked on some footwork drills by myself. Also, my weight is finally getting up there again. I broke 280 pounds this week, and I plan to get close to 290 before the winter is over. Tuesday, February 22nd, 2000. I was kind of surprised today to weigh in at 291. I had all my street clothes on, so that made me about 5 pounds heavier, but this is still pretty close to my goal, and it's weird to see that weight on the scale, knowing that I was hovering above 270 pounds just 4 weeks ago. I don't know too many doctors who would say weight gain like this is healthy, but with all the work we do and the quality of food we eat, I'm not worried about it at all. My strength continues to increase, and I'm keeping an eye on my body fat. I just know that my overall size will play a key role in the amount of playing time that I'll get next year. Thursday, February 24th, 2000. Today's running was supposed to be easier than Monday's, but for some reason, everyone was really pumped up, and we all flew through it in an amazing time. It was probably the most intense running workout we have ever done, and I am totally wiped out. We had a special dinner tonight for Black History Month. This meant a free-for-all on some of the best food of the year. There was fried catfish, barbecued pork ribs, fried chicken, carved turkey, and inside round. There was also plenty of sides, with all the food groups getting good representation. I left feeling incredibly full and satisfied. I hope this food will get me charged up for squat tomorrow. Friday, February 25th, 2000. I finally reached one of my goals for the winter. I broke 400 pounds on squat by doing 405 5 times on my last set. I really had to psych myself up for this and get the adrenaline flowing, but then I attacked it and got them all really well. Archer and Coach Tennifer were both very pleased. The O-line later got together for our passing drills, but we decided to play kickball instead. When we play games like this, the teams are usually the older guys against the younger guys. Believe it or not, the older guys like to make up their own rules from time to time to ensure victory, but that didn't happen today. We had some great kickers on our team, and we ended up beating them. They were pretty sore about it, but it really didn't matter. It's all in fun. Monday, February 28th, 2000. This afternoon's running was fairly intense, but everyone was so happy about this being the last running workout of the winter that it hardly affected us. Mike Wilford was out with a back problem, and Brian Hale was out again, as he has been for most of the workouts. Starting center Dominic Raiola yelled at Brian, but to no use. I don't think he's ever shown the desire or the effort to do anything. Guard Dan Swantek has learned that this will be his last semester at Nebraska. He has yet to get above a 2.0 GPA, and he has been given every chance to pass and slide through the system. You can only slide through life so far. At some point, you have to push yourself. Tuesday, February 29th, 2000. I continued to improve on my bench today by finishing with the last set of 5 at 275 pounds. That's an all-time best, and it felt really good. I did a lot of extra stuff in the afternoon, and was sure to get a great upper body workout, especially in my shoulders and back. We get our body fat tested next Monday, and then we do our performance testing on Wednesday. My plan for this is to put as much weight on as I can until Monday, I hope breaking 290, and then drop a lot of weight over the next 2 days before the testing. This shouldn't be too hard, because most of the weight will be water, and I know that if I don't eat a lot on weekends, I can lose up to 10 pounds. This will help me out a lot with testing, because I really don't want to run the 300-yard shuttle again. This might not be the greatest thing in the world to do, but I think it will work. Our testing scores are based on our weight. It's impressive when a receiver runs a 4.6 40, but it's even more impressive when a lineman can do the same. Every 5 or 10 pounds of body weight adds a degree of difficulty that can work for you or against you. Since we weigh in 2 days early, this gives me a chance to skew the numbers in my favor. Friday, March 3rd, 2000. I knew I should have gone higher on my last set of squat, but I stayed with what my cards said. I did my last set at 415 pounds, and when I finished 5, I knew my legs could take at least one more. I did a 6th rep fairly well. I knew I had another one in me. Scott Cothe was spotting me and went to grab the bar so he could help me rack it after finishing my 6th one. Instead, I said, "One more," and he backed off, and I did a 7th rep. This one took all of my remaining strength and I barely got it up, but I did it. This topped off my entire winter. For our afternoon workout, we all met at Hooters for happy hour. They had 35-cent wings and dollar draws, and I emptied my wallet. Brian Nelson, Scott Cothy, and I got a plate of 40 wings, and we finished them off without a problem. The waitress didn't card anybody, I wonder why, so most of us were drinking. The number of pitchers of beer that they brought to our table was staggering. I think the beer tab alone was over $70. It was a nice way to wrap up the winter. In fact, John Garrison had such a nice time there at Hooters that he ended up marrying our waitress. Brian Nelson has become quite a figure on the offensive line. He's like a walking comic book character with his pleasant demeanor, easygoing attitude, and giant belly. He also has a slight speech impediment, which, combined with the belly and overall size, make him a perfect look-alike for Lenny, the character in Of Mice and Men. Many of the guys have taken to calling him Lenny. At first, I thought this was an amazingly erudite connection to come from this group, but then I remembered this book was also turned into a movie. Monday, March 6th, 2000. I weighed in for my body fat test today at 292 pounds. I chugged about 2 pounds of sports drink to get my weight up to this, which is less than I expected to do. My percentage really didn't change. It's now 14.3%. According to this, I put on about 12 pounds of lean mass during the winter, which is outstanding. I finally broke into the 250-pound lean mass club, but just barely. We had a meeting this afternoon and went over the testing information for Wednesday and the other general stuff. It was really a waste of time, but I had nothing better to do. Wednesday, March 8th, 2000. I was kind of worried about testing today. If I didn't improve in 3 of the 4 events, I would have had to run the 300-yard shuttle. We have to improve in at least 1 out of 2 ways. The quantitative results, the time for running or the height for jumping, or by the qualitative results, which is our index score based on our body weight and our performance combined. Since the index score is based on body weight, getting myself to 292 pounds helped me out in this respect. However, I didn't drop as much weight as I had hoped I was going to by now. I'm at about 285, which added to my worries about my performance. I went to the cook at around 1:45 and had plenty of time to warm up before testing. The seniors were already testing for the pro scouts, and we started just after they finished. I started off in the vertical jump. I bettered my all-time jump by half an inch to get to a 25-inch vertical. 1 down, 2 to go. Next was the pro agility. For this test, you start off facing perpendicular to a yard line, straddling it, and then you take off going to the right for 5 yards, change direction, go 10 yards, and then change direction again and go 5 yards back to your original starting point. I always have a little bit of trouble with this one because I get my steps wrong and slow down too much to compensate. This time I shaved off 0.05 seconds. Good enough. Now I needed just 1 more to get out of doing the shuttle run. I went over to the 40-yard dash station, did a light warm-up, and tried to get some adrenaline flowing, and then I just went right into it. Last time I ran a 40 that amazed me, and I didn't really know if I could do that again. I ran the best I could, and it turned out that this was also the best I've ever done. I shaved my 40 time by almost 1/10 of a second to 5.60. I also improved my 10-yard dash, so in the end, I bettered all 4 of the tests. I was very pleased. These new test scores boosted my performance index by 200 points. I think it's now 1,534 points, which isn't outstanding, but shows that I'm continually improving. All of my times and scores are respectable, but there's still a lot of room for improvement, and I know I'll keep getting better if I continue to work hard and stay dedicated. 2000 Spring Ball. Monday, March 20th, 2000. This was the first day of spring ball practice. It was just what I was expecting. We went in helmets and spent the entire time learning just 4 of the most basic plays in our offense. It was all fairly easy, and I hardly ever messed up. One time that I did mess up was funny to me, but not to Coach Tenneper. Brett Lindstrom is the quarterback for the 3rd team, and he also was my quarterback in high school. When we wanted to change the play at the line of scrimmage in high school, we would put the number 7 in the cadence. Brett used this for one of his cadences today, saying, "Set 7-11, 7-11, hut!" Hearing him say this sparked my memory, and all of a sudden, I thought the play had been changed to an 11 base option. I ran 11 base, which was the wrong play, and Coach Tenneper was quick to point out my error. I quickly tried to defend myself, saying, "But he used a 7 call to change the play." Coach Tenneper just stared at me. "What are you talking about? We don't have a 7 call." Then I realized my mistake. I kept my mouth shut and walked quickly away to save my dignity. Besides that, it was a good first day. I don't know if it means anything, but after practice, my knees were really warm. They haven't felt 100% in the past few weeks, and I think it may be due in part to the really heavy weight I was doing on squats. I don't know if somehow I messed up my knees or if this is just growing pains. Whatever it is, it kind of freaked me out. Saturday, March 25th, 2000. We were greeted with our survivor gift today when we got to the locker room. This was for being at every workout over the winter conditioning period. It's just a red Adidas t-shirt with the survivor logo on it, but it has some sentimental value, I guess. We also received a pair of gray sweatshorts and a matching t-shirt, the same gray t-shirt they'd given us twice before. Oh well, it's free. Somewhat. Norma, one of the secretaries within the athletic department, who is most often seen when it's time to give us money, handed out $27 to us non-scholarship players at breakfast, which was gratefully added to my skinny wallet. Meeting started at 10. A big meal early on Saturdays and sitting in a darkened room after getting 5 hours of sleep doesn't add up too well. I nodded off a few times, but I didn't really miss much. We just watch the number ones run plays all the time, so we never get a chance to see what we're doing really well, what we're doing wrong, and what we could do better, and so on. I know we're not doing everything perfectly, so why do we waste all the time looking at the group that does everything perfectly instead of getting the whole group involved in pointing out what the younger guys are doing wrong and how to fix it? The older guys know everything already, and the rest of us can only learn so much on our own. I think we need to involve the younger groups more in meetings if the coaches plan for them to be ready to play someday. Practice started around 12:30. The last drill we did was the scrimmage part of the day. I did okay. I don't plan to make a high grade, but I don't think I messed up too badly. My biggest problem is getting my blocks to be powerful and making them last. Too often the defensive man and I stalemate at the line of scrimmage, or, worst yet, I get driven back. Sometimes I don't hit the guy right and he slips off me and makes the play. Leg power and punch are my biggest weaknesses right now. It doesn't help that I'm going up against Ryan Bingham, who is much stronger than pretty much everybody, but I do a good job sometimes. I know all the plays, I know the calls, and I know a lot more than I did last year, but my strength and my technique really need a lot of work. After practice, I ran home to see my high school put on their spring musical. This was a must for me, because it's the last year of teaching for the director, Mike Janis. Mr. Janis has been a good family friend for a long time. During my time in high school, I was involved in everything with vocal music that was open to me, and this culminated in being the lead of my senior musical, Fiddler on the Roof. I can't begin to describe how big of an influence Mr. Janis and his classes had on me and my life, but I can say for certain that he influenced some of the most positive changes in my life. Monday, March 27th, 2000. I skipped my 8:30 and 11:30 classes just so I could sleep in and get plenty of rest. I knew today would be a big day, and I would need a lot of energy. The practice was supposed to be shorter than usual, but I think that was just something Coach Solich said, so we could enjoy our shortened weekend a little more. Today was very intense, and one of the best practices I've had in a while. I made some great blocks and showed a lot of intensity and effort. I messed up only a handful of times, and I knew exactly what I did when it happened. After dinner, I met with Jack Stark, the sports psychologist. I went over some things that recently happened to me, especially regarding relationships, and some more stuff that goes back even further in my life. It was really refreshing to get some of those things said, and he was very good about offering advice and direction to help me overcome my problems. I think this period of my life could be a major turning point for me. This is a little hindsight section I added. I had just been dumped. I felt like football was a curse and a burden, and I felt like I was trapped in the program with no way to get out that wouldn't alienate me from family and friends who cared so much about my spot on the team. A lot of pent-up emotions were trying to get out, and I didn't know how to do this productively. In short, I was pretty mixed up at this point, but it wouldn't be the last time. Looking back, it's almost comical how a couple of other guys and myself would talk about how much easier our lives would be if we were in prison instead of football. We all felt we would have had more freedom with our lives behind bars than on this team. Luckily for us, no one ever acted on this philosophy. Tuesday, March 28th, 2000. I met with Coach Ron Brown after I lifted today. He is a great man and very vocal about his faith and his beliefs. We had a great talk about faith and religion. He gave me a lot of inspirational advice and showed me what to do if I am really serious about what I feel. I talked about my personal history with religion and where I am at this point in my life with all the questions and doubts. He gave me a lot of stories and personal examples and really helped me clear my mind up. Afterwards, we prayed together and I accepted Jesus Christ into my life. I'm taking a leap of faith and putting my life in the hands of God. I have gotten by so far in my life without ever asking for divine help, and I've done fairly well. I feel that with God's help I can achieve more, but it will take time and dedication. This day marks the rebirth of my religious side. Wednesday, March 29th, 2000. After dinner this evening, I met up with Chase Long, Josh Brown, Aaron Galladay, Justin Smith, and Kyle Colmorgan. We all rode in 2 Lincoln Fire Department vehicles to 2 area hospitals where we went around and did our best to cheer up some of the patients. It didn't last long, but it was a good time, and I got to make some new connections. The firemen received an emergency call on our way back, and we were put in the middle of the action as they raced with lights and sirens on to one of the fraternity houses on campus. Unfortunately, the frat house was not on fire, and we just drove by after making sure the situation was under control. As far as power and authority go on campus, the football team and the Greek system are about equal, but by completely different methods. The football players know that we bring a ton of money and publicity to the university, not to mention a reason to celebrate, and we are able to walk around campus with everyone admiring us. The Greek system is like a parasitic leech, sucking the fun out of being a regular student and making you feel like a nobody if you aren't affiliated with a house. They keep all the school business and functions to themselves, never offering a piece of the pie to anyone else. But what really gets me about these frat boys and sorority girls is that they think they're so special simply because they can pay all this extra money so that they can buy their friends, live in a cramped loft, and get trashed every weekend while trying to get some. This is a little afterthought I added to this section. One of the first questions I asked my wife when we were out on our first date was if she was in a sorority. She wasn't. She passed my test. Saturday, April 1st, 2000. The first real scrimmage of spring ball. I was scheduled for 22 plays throughout the day. Each team is running 42 plays, giving a total of 126 for the day. John Garrison took all the snaps for the first set for the third-string offense. I then took over the next set of 10 after the other 2 teams cycled through. For the last set, Garrison and I traded off series for the final 22 plays. We got $27 at breakfast this morning. It was a very good practice overall. The offense seemed very strong and pretty much shut the defense out for the day. 1 interception was returned for a touchdown, but that was about the only highlight for the defense. Eric Crouch didn't do anything because he is still recovering from shoulder surgery, so Jamal Lord took all the snaps for the number 1s. Jamal really looked amazing out there. He has great speed, agility, vision, timing, acceleration, and throwing accuracy. He looked like Michael Vick did in the national championship game for Virginia Tech, with all the way he shook off tacklers and dodged defensive men like magic. He was definitely the highlight of the day for us. Every high point also needs a low point to bring balance to the universe. This low point for me happened no less than 10 minutes before the end of the practice. We were within the 5-yard line, ready to score, and everyone was looking forward to getting in the end zone and eventually going home. We ran a play to the left, and I blocked a man shaded to my right and kept him away from the play entirely. To my left, the guard must have had some trouble with his man. One of them came crashing down on the side of my calf, buckling my knee in on me. I felt a distinct pop on the right side of my left kneecap. I've been studying such injuries in my athletic training class, so I knew at once what had happened. I didn't feel much pain at all, and was able to hobble off the field under my own power. I passed by Coach Tenneper, who understandably asked what happened, and I told him precisely, "It's my knee. I hurt my MCL." I made my way to the training table on the sideline, and the trainers confirmed what I already knew. I had a second-degree sprain of my medial collateral ligament, also known as the MCL. This was the same thing that happened to Scott Cothe, and he is out for the rest of spring ball. I didn't want this to happen to me. I was just beginning to find my groove out there on the field. My mom and dad both said that they hardly recognized me on the field because I looked and played so much better. I have noticed this as well, and I was hoping to have a breakthrough spring and get myself into position to be a contender for some major playing time. After practice and a shower, I made my way to the training room and iced my knee in the whirlpool. Not a whirlpool like one you would have in your home. It's like a tall, skinny, miniature horse trough, just big enough for one person to squeeze into, with an agitator to spin around the water. I was wrapped up, given a brace, and then told to be back at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. This is an afterthought I threw in. In later years, this story became a favorite of my friend and walk-on fullback Andrew Wingender. He tells the story of me hobbling over to the sideline and telling Coach Tenneper that I hurt my MCL. Then he adds the little Coach Tenneper dialogue and says, "Well, Dave, don't you think we should let the trainers make that diagnosis?" To which I quickly answer, Nope, it's my MCL, I'm sure."